Imagine deploying an Azure VM. Everything looks fine, and then at the end of the month, boom, you've got a huge Azure bill. And the scary part, most beginners don't even know why it happened, and that's exactly why companies use the Azure Pricing Calculator before deploying resources. In today's video, I'll show you what Azure Pricing Calculator actually is, why it's extremely important in real companies, how to estimate Azure resources cost, and the hidden charges which are involved with the creation of the resources, and how you can avoid expensive mistakes. So welcome back to Cloud with Arya. If you're learning Azure, cloud engineering, or looking for real world projects, make sure to subscribe. So first of all, what exactly is Azure Pricing Calculator? Azure Pricing Calculator is a free tool provided by Microsoft that helps you estimate the cost of Azure services before deploying them. And you can think of it like before buying a car, you first calculate car cost and the various other costs that entails with the car, that is the fuel cost, insurance and maintenance. Similarly in Azure, before deploying virtual machine, storage, backup, networking and databases, companies first estimate how much will this cost monthly so that they can budget in their annual or monthly expenses. Also because nobody wants a surprise cloud bill. So Azure Pricing Calculator is a single pane of view from where we can calculate all the Azure services cost. Example, virtual machines, storage accounts, load balancer, Azure backup, application gateway, SQL databases, and many more. This is very important in companies because cloud resources cost money every single hour. Even if your VM is running and nobody is using it, you still pay, and you can save the cost if you know how you can prevent the cost if you are not utilizing those resources, like stopping the virtual machine. And here is something many beginners don't know: the same VM in different regions or Azure resources in different regions can have different pricing. So sometimes companies strategically choose regions based on compliance, latency, and pricing optimization. So suppose in East US, the pricing is much less compared to West Europe because Azure may get more charges in that region and will also cost you more. So you can check in these factors to choose the region which best matches your resources workload. Now enough theory, let's go into the Azure Pricing Calculator and estimate a real world Azure environment step by step. So when we search for pricing calculator, we have Microsoft Azure Pricing Calculator. And in here you will see all your Azure services and you can get the cost for the resources which you want to create. So when we scroll down, we have a login page. So if you are in agreement with the Microsoft, like the Microsoft customer agreement, or you have an enterprise agreement, you would have a little bit of difference in the cost than the regular, because this agreement provides you a little bit of discounts compared to just a regular customer. So you can log in if you want to check the exact cost. For now, I'll scroll down. Next you have is the products. In the products, you'll see all the Azure services, like in terms of compute, your networking, you would have the storage, then you would have is databases, right? So according to the service you want to deploy, you can just directly search here, right? So we'll go back to products and we'll start creating a virtual machine estimate because that is the most widely used service. Now we'll go to add to estimate, then we'll have a pop-up, then we'll click on view. Now here comes the important part. You should never randomly select options because every option changes the pricing. For example, region, your operating system, your type, your size, right? So we'll select the region, Central US. Then we'll select the operating system as Windows. Then we have is a type. In the type we'll use OS only. Next we have is a tier. Tier will have only basic, that was used earlier. Now and we have is standard. And next is category. So this below option is for the kind of size or SKU which you are opting for your resource. For this I'll select all, and then instance I'll select B4AS B2, right? So now we have selected everything. We are going to create a single virtual machine and we can change it to 1 month, right? So you can see for running this Windows virtual machine in the Central US region and before ASP2 SKU, I'll get a cost around $124 per month, and there will be a OS licensing cost. For B series it's very less, but for D and E it's going to be more. So suppose I select a D4 series, the cost increase from 13 to 134. This is OS license cost, and one is we have the compute, that is 158. So this cost what you are seeing is for Central US region. Now if I change the region from Central to South Central, you can see the cost increased from 158 to 167. So different regions have different cost model, and you would have to factor in where your workloads are going to run and your end customers where are located, so you can get the least latency as possible and for the good customer experience. Or if it's a dev test environment, you can choose the region which have low cost compared for the compute. And similarly, if I change from Windows to Linux, you'll see the license cost have gone. So Ubuntu has no license cost, but if I change it to Red Hat, you'll see a different cost. So this is how you can get a cost of compute, that is the CPU and memory. And other we have is a OS license cost. Now let's add storage. In here you'll see the cost total of your compute and license. Next we have is a managed disk, and we have got three options, that is standard STD, which is the least costly. Then we have the standard SSD. So you can see in here I don't have premium SSD. It's dependent upon the SKU which we choose. So D4A doesn't have the premium SSD. With the S in the end we will have the premium SSD option 2. So if I expand, I have the premium SSD and V2 also. So if you choose the premium SSD, select mostly common standard SSD and select the size up to 56 gigabytes. You can see the cost. If I factor in 1, you can see the total. And also if you change redundancy from LRS to ZRS, it will make the 3 copies in a region zone. So you'll see the cost increase here. So the cost went from 18 to 28, and this will help you prevent from any zone outages because your virtual machine is going to be available in a different zone. So I'll choose LRS. So premium SSD is faster but also more expensive. So if I change, you can see for 512 gigabytes is 66. And if your workload does not need high performance, you might be wasting money, right? So this is how you can get the cost for your disk. Also we have the bandwidth. Bandwidth is your network charges. So any data going outside, you'll get a cost. So outbound data transfer, if you choose from South Central US to East Asia, and if I increase that outbound data transfer, you can see the cost is increasing. So more the data you are transferring going out from the region, you'll get the more cost. And you can see the final total what it's going to cost yearly and monthly, right? And if you want to get more discount, and if you know your VM is going to be there for a year or a 3 year, you'll get more discount. So if I buy a reservation for 1 year, the cost will get decreased from 167 to 100, and if I change to 3, it will change to 67 per month, so which is a significant discount compared to pay as you go. And one more cost which we have to factor in is the backup. If you are backing up your virtual machine, right? So you can choose your region, then your Azure VM, the backup policy which you are opting, and how many virtual machine, how much data it's going to be. Suppose I have 512 and the backup policy is 30 days, schedule for early backup 24 hours, and retain weekly backups for 2 weeks, and this I'll change to 14. And if I scroll below, I'll see the cost for monthly and annual 704. So this is how the cost can add up easily in cloud. So you would have to factor in everything while getting the cost estimation. Now let me show you some hidden cost beginners usually ignore. Number 1, outbound bandwidth charges, that is data leaving Azure. So which I just showed you, data going out of Azure can cost money. And to check that, if you have already created a virtual machine, you can go to your cost analysis in your resource group where your virtual machine is, how much you are getting the cost for compute, storage and bandwidth, right? Number 2, we have the backup storage growth. As backups increases, cost also increases. And next we have is resources left running. Even unused VMs can generate charges, and you would have to stop them if you are not using them to save cost. And premium services are selected accidentally. This happens a lot when you have selected that premium SSD disk and when you can work with standard SSD. So this is how you can plan your resources and their creation. Now here are some ways companies reduce Azure cost. They use reserved instances. So if you know your resources are going to be there, like your virtual machine, app service plan, your databases are going to be there for a longer duration like 1 year or 3 year, you can save cost compared to pay as you go, and there is a significant amount of decrease that you'll get. Next is we have auto shutdown. You can create automation to automatically shut down your virtual machine during off hours, from where you can save the compute cost. Next we have is a right size VMs. So there's an advisor portal in Azure which you can check to see if your virtual machines are over provisioned and if you can downgrade. That way you'll also save the cost if you have bigger sizes allocated to your resource. Also you can change the storage tiers to cool or archive, which the data is not frequently used. Like in storage account we have an option to choose your tier from hot to cool and archive, and basically the data which is not frequently accessed can be put into these kind of tiers, and you'll see the huge cost difference. when you make those changes. And also hybrid benefits, if you have the OS licenses, you can use them in Azure also. So pricing estimation bridges the gap between engineering and management. In real projects, before deployment, management usually ask what will be the monthly cost, and cloud engineers prepare estimates using this calculator. And there's a shift that is going on from deploying resources to architecting efficiency. Estimate everything before deployment, account for hidden bandwidth and backups or hidden charges, optimize continuously using enterprise strategies like using Azure Advisor to look for any recommendation from Microsoft for your resources, like downsizing or buying a reservation. So, today we learned what Azure Pricing Calculator is, why companies use it, how to estimate Azure resource pricing, hidden Azure charges, and cost optimization basics. If you want, I can also create detailed videos on application gateway pricing, Kubernetes, cost optimization, Azure billing analysis. Comment below which one you want next. If this video helped you, make sure to like, subscribe, and share it with someone learning Azure. And I'll see you in the next one.